My research question is, how can we enhance memory recall accuracy? And this is going to be focusing specifically in eyewitness testimony. Quite a few studies have already been done about this topic, but of course there's still a lot to learn. Most of the studies that have been conducted have similar methods as each other, such as how they get their participants, who are usually like undergrad students who are offered extra credit or research hours, and also all include simply showing the participants a video of a crime followed by a distractor test, depending on what group the participants are in, and then they are questioned. Strengths of prior research are that researchers have found multiple retrieval methods that have high success rates, such as cognitive interviews, free recall, which both of those are very widely used in law enforcement still, as well as cued recall. Another strength from prior research is that every experiment, at least all of the ones that I've looked into, that require more than one coder displayed very high inter-rater and inter-coder reliability. This is nice as it helps to identify the strong reliability of the results of the experiments and allows us to understand that these studies were well tested and yielded potentially promising results. Some limitations are that, of course, not every possible way this topic can be studied has been experimented with, such as the purpose of this proposal, which is measuring comfortability and stress on the person being interviewed. As strong as these conducted studies have been, there are still some gaps in the literature as well. It is important to address that the external validity, in my opinion, of most of these studies were kind of poor given the biased samples of participants used in the experiments. A lot of them did use like the professors used their psychology students so the students could get extra credit. So it was kind of just like an easy way to get participants. So this kind of leaves me to wonder, would the outcomes and answers be different if more of an unbiased sample was taken? So for my participants in this study, I would like to have a decent amount of them in this experiment. So ideally, I would have roughly 50 to 60 participants ranging from the ages of about 18 to 50. I will get the participants by putting out an ad online that, there are participants that are wanted for a psychology study. We won't list what the study is so that they don't have any idea of what it is, but of course they will know that it's nothing crazy. This allows me to have a pretty representative and unbiased sample. Ethnicity is not something that will be measured in the study, so that will not play a part in choosing the participants. So the variables for the study are going to be memory and comfortability. And in my study design, so the chosen participants, they're going to be at a public location such as a mall where they'll be waiting to be called into a room as part of a undisclosed psychological study. During this waiting period in such a public place, there'll be 6 Confederates within the waiting group. There'll be 4 victims and 2 suspects, quote victims, quote suspects. In this crime, the suspect Confederates will be slowly pacing around the group and pickpocketing the victim Confederates. Now, this ideally will be in the view of the participant so that they witness it, but not within reach to where it can get quickly physical if someone decides to act on it. Very shortly after this crime has occurred and been reported, participants will then be called into rooms to conduct an interview about the details of the crime. Typical questions such as the suspect's physical details, what was taken, how they took it, etc. Half of the participants will be interviewed by a researcher in a smaller room with warm lighting, comfortable chairs, and an interviewer with a calm demeanor. The other half of the group will be interviewed at the same time with the same questions about the witness crime, but in an open room with harsh fluorescent lighting, metal chairs, and an interviewer that appears kind of rushed and stressed. Think grandpa's office versus hospital room. The purpose of this particular study is to see specifically if atmosphere and comfortability have a role to play in accuracy of memory recall. Does the feeling of stress and demand of detail play a part in accurate memory recall? From previous studies, we do know that the quicker we get eyewitness testimony of a crime, the more accurate it is. However, ways to enhance it are always important to discover, as law enforcement rely heavily on eyewitness testimonies and the accuracy of them. So for my hypothesis, I hypothesize that after immediate questioning in a comfortable and stress-free environment, it will yield a more accurate recall information on the witnessed event. So some limitations to this particular study includes possible ethical violations. With the study designed as so in terms of what participants see as a real-time, genuine crime, it's mostly unpredictable what their reactions are going to be. This is why I chose a nonviolent crime such as pickpocketing, but regardless of how nonviolent the crime might be, people's innate sense of justice might come into play and they might act on it. And a strength of this proposal is that the topic has never been studied in a real-life situation, so it brings something new to the table. So if I were to do this study again, my next steps would really be to just measure other variables in the same type of study, such as delay in time between questioning, an hour, a day, a week, a month. Time is something that I wanted to also add into this proposal, but I didn't want to add too many variables into one study, so I just stuck with basically stress, comfortability, memory. So that is my proposal. Thank you very much for listening.